And they change the word from where it used to be. Is this the common person doing it? No. This is their scholars doing it. This is their scholars. When Allah says a group among them used to hear the word of Allah and used to change it, even after having understood it. Who is He pointing the finger at? Their scholars. Now, why are you blaming the entire nation? Like, these people are not going to believe what you're saying because their scholars are corrupt. That's basically what Allah is saying. That's not fair. The scholars are corrupt. What about the rest of the people? Allah Azza wa Jalla is here highlighting a very deep problem of religious psychology. When a nation becomes weak when their relationship with their book becomes weak. And how do you know that a nation has a weak relationship with their book, with the book of Allah? That happens when the book of Allah is only studied and understood by the scholars. And the vast majority of Muslims say, I don't need to know, I'll just go ask a scholar. I'll ask a shaykh. I don't need to know what the ayah says. I don't need to know what the surah says. That's not my problem. I'm not a shaykh. And then the shuyukh will also come along, like the shuyukh of Bani Israel would come along and say, hey, you have no business reading Torah yourself. You'll get misguided. You will go to Jahannam because you will misunderstand it. If you have a question, come to me and I will tell you what it says. As a matter of fact, don't even read it yourself and ask questions. I'll just tell you everything you need to know. Keep a distance from the Quran because it'll misguide you. Wallahi al-azim. This is the greatest trick of shaitan in the history of religion. The revelation that came to connect every human being to Allah, now we're being fed, you can only go through scholars. I'm not undermining the value of scholarship. You have to understand though what the role of scholarship is. The role of scholarship is as follows. You, the public, I'm not a scholar either, me, the public, we're supposed to be informed consumers. We're students. We cannot be non-students. Everybody's supposed to be a student. And as students, you have the right to ask questions when you don't understand something. You can say, how can we believe this? Where did this come from? How did this get there? And you're supposed to be curious and ask those questions. And whose responsibility is it to give you those answers in a satisfying fashion? The scholars. And they're supposed to not just give you the answer, they're supposed to show you how they arrived at the answer. So if they give you an answer and you say, well, I'm not convinced, how did you arrive at this answer? They're not allowed to get offended. They're not allowed to say, I'm a alim, you're not, shut up. They're not allowed to say that. And so what happens in their scholarship? In the Jewish mind, this is actually far more extreme than the ummah ever became. But in their history what happened? Their scholars would write an opinion. An opinion is actually somebody's best attempt at understanding something. They would write an opinion, and the next generation would actually believe that the opinion of a rabbi is equal to the law of God. Their fatwa is equal to Islam itself. So disagreeing with the rabbi, and by the way, then they had other ulama with other opinions. And they kept collecting all these opinions. For any one issue, they have 100 different opinions. And they say, follow any one of them because they are all from Allah. All of these opinions are from Allah. Why? Because they came from scholars. Because scholars can't go wrong. The scholars actually became divine in a sense. And that's why the Quran says that they took their scholars, their rabbis and their priests as gods besides Allah. They didn't worship them, but they took law from them like they're taking law from Allah Himself. They took halal and haram from them without question like they would take it from Allah Himself. So now, even after they're making these changes, and then let me take you back to the Muslim psyche, because today if there's nothing else you understand, just understand this problem. A very deep problem in religious psychology that hits any ummah, even the Muslim ummah. We are people of benefit of the doubt. We say he's a alim, how could he be a bad person? Oh, he wouldn't say something wrong. He wouldn't do that. And then of course, there's a class of people who call themselves scholars. Their only business is the following: to tell you, don't listen to this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, because they're not real scholars. And you better only listen to me if you want to be saved, because I speak the haqq. I'm going to tell you what Quran says, what Sunnah says. Everybody else, watch out. If you want to save yourself, here's the website that you always go to. Don't go anywhere else. Here's the book you read and nothing else. Here's the manual that'll teach you. And they create this cult where you're not, and if you question them, then you're out too. Then they'll write a warning about you because you asked a question. You know, that's one part of their business. The other part of their business is that literally this: they hear the word of Allah and they offer one of its interpretations, whether that interpretation actually meets the text or not. And over time, a mafia is formed. And I use the word mafia on purpose. What's in a mafia? You have to, if you're in it, you can't disagree with the boss. So if you have a student from within some school, and he says, my school of thought, my teachers taught me this opinion, but I'm not convinced. Quran is telling me something else. Sunnah is telling me something else. Evidence is telling me something else. History is telling me something else. I cannot agree with this fatwa. I can't. In good conscience. He'll tell you that in a private dinner. He can't tell you that openly. I can't. My elders have said that I can't disagree with this. Where are your loyalties? So it becomes that the word of the elders becomes the word of Allah. And so Allah says, this in the worst case was with Bani Israel. Now please, as you hear this, don't form the other extreme. The other extreme is all scholars are corrupt. I don't want anything to do with scholars. Astaghfirullah, they're just like the rabbis of Bani Israel. These are extremes. And ignorant people love either going into one extreme and coming out and going into another extreme. Like the ummah today, if we love a scholar, oh my God, we're obsessed with this scholar. We can't hear any criticism of him. But once he falls in our eyes, he's basically Iblis. Now I don't want to hear anything about him. Don't even say his name. Astaghfirullah. Two. I have to make wudu again. Like that's... Do you deal with any human being this way? Human beings are people that make mistakes. And scholars are no different. And every field in which there is influence or a concentration of knowledge is subject to corruption. Lawyers can be corrupt because they understand the law. Mechanics can be corrupt because they understand the car better than you. Construction people can be corrupt. Contractors can be corrupt because they say, I need this material, this material. You don't know any better, you'll have to trust them. Scholars are no different. If you're in a position, just because it's religion doesn't mean that there's no room for corruption. There is. But at the same time, are there good people in these fields as well? Yes. And so there are always going to be sincere, genuine scholars that are actually, and you'll know one of the qualities of genuine scholarship is that they are far more student than they are teacher. They're just in a lifelong engagement of learning. And that's how you can tell the mark of a scholar, you know? So ثُمَّ يُحَرِّفُونَهُ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا عَقَلُوهُ. They edit it even after they've come to understand it. They understand what it really means, but they still can't get themselves to say it. وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. And they're the ones who know. In other words, knowledge is being kept with them. If they don't send it out, if they don't give it out, the public's not going to have it. And so in this ayah, Allah is actually directly blaming one group and indirectly blaming another group. Directly, He's blaming corrupt scholarship. Indirectly, He's blaming the public who trusts them with anything without asking any questions. A completely blind, trusting public. We don't interrogate our scholars, but we do engage in reasonable, rational, civil conversation with them. That transparency needs to be there for an ummah to be secure from corruption. And so, وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا. The general public, this ayah now builds on this idea. When they come to those who believe, they say, we believe too. A Jew from Medina listens to his rabbi talk about the final prophet, Saturday after Saturday after Saturday. Then he sees Rasulullah ﷺ and says, hey, that's exactly the lecture I heard. He's exactly the same guy. And he goes and talks to one of the Sahaba and says, he's a prophet of yours? I think it's the same one we heard about in our book. I've heard so many speeches about him. It all matches up. Now this is a common Jew talking to a common Muslim in Medina. They're just having this casual conversation. So when they come to you, they say, I think we're pretty much on the same page. We accept all this stuff that you're saying. We've been hearing this for a long time. وَإِذَا خَلَا بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ. Then they go happily to the rabbi, running off to the rabbi. And they go in private company. Rabbi, guess what? I think that prophet you told us about, he's here. And I was talking to some of his followers. It's totally what you said. It's exactly the same man. And so then they get a lecture from their rabbi. Why did you go tell them? Don't go talk to them again. You'll get confused. If you know what's good for you, just stay here. I'll tell you if it's right or wrong. Don't go asking questions yourself. And so before I finish the ayah, I want to read something to you from Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, who observed this phenomenon in Medina. المروي عن ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما أن منافقي أهل الكتاب كانوا إذا لقوا أصحاب محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم قالوا لهم آمنا بالذي آمنتم به. Ibn Abbas says these people of the people of the book, especially the Jews, used to come to the Muslims in Medina and say, we believe in exactly the same thing. وَنَشْهَدُ أَنَّ صَاحِبَكُمْ صَادِقٌ. We're willing to testify. We're pretty sure that your companion, by which they mean the Prophet, your companion is telling the truth. وَأَنَّ قَوْلَهُ حَقٌّ وَنَجِدُهُ بِنَعْتِهِ وَصِفَتِهِ فِي كِتَابِنَا. And we find him with his exact description and his exact qualities in our book. ثُمَّ إِذَا خَلَى بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ قَالَ الرُّؤَسَاءُ لَهُمْ. And when they went in private company to their own, among themselves, the heads of them, their chiefs, their leaders said, أَتُحَدِّثُونَهُمْ بِمَا فَتَحَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي كِتَابِهِ مِنْ نَعْتِهِ وَصِفَتِهِ لِيُحَاجُّكُمْ بِهِ. Are you guys honestly going to the Muslims and talking to them about how you have in common with them these descriptions that I talked to you about in the book? فإن المخالف إذا اعترف بصحة التوراة واعترف بشهادة التوراة على نبوة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم فلا حجة أقوى من ذلك. If someone who doesn't even believe in the Prophet comes over to a Muslim and says, that's the one in our books, there's no better case than that. We didn't have to go prove it to you. You're coming and confessing it yourselves. If you go and do this, then you're not just making yourself look bad, you're making me look bad. Now I don't have a choice but to accept. The rabbi is yelling at him and saying, if you go and say, I gave lectures about Muhammad, that you should accept him, and now you went and told them, then you're killing me here, man. And so the exact language of the Quran, remarkable. He says, أَتُحَدِّثُونَهُمْ. Are you going and engaging in conversation with them, starting up a chat with them? It's interesting, so interesting. If you say, أَتَتَحَدَّثُونَ إِلَيْهِمْ. Are you talking with them? That could mean they started the conversation and you responded. But if you say أَتُحَدِّثُونَهُمْ التَّفْعِيل, it means you started the conversation. Meaning the Jewish community got so intrigued by the Quran, they couldn't help but engage the Muslims in conversation. They went and talked to them. And they got yelled at for starting the conversation. بِمَا فَتَحَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ. And you're talking to them because of what Allah has opened to you. In other words, Allah has given you the insight to see that what you've heard from me matches with what you hear from them. لِيُحَاجُّوكُمْ بِهِ. Are you doing this so they can start arguing against you? They don't just want to see commonalities in our faith. If you just show them commonalities, they're not going to just sit back and say, well, I'm glad we find this common ground. Now you go back to the synagogue and I'll go to the mosque. They're going to say, you should accept. There's not just a casual, hey, I'm glad we have stuff in common, now let's eat cookies together. They're going to put some pressure on you. They're going to want you to, do you want to become Muslim now? Is that what you're saying? لِيُحَاجُّكُمْ بِهِ عِنْدَ رَبِّكُمْ. They're going to make a case against you with your God. They're going to invoke your God and say, you must now accept this religion. This is not just a casual conversation about commonalities. How interesting. We have prayer like yours too. It's so fascinating. Yeah. I'm really glad we talked about this because our book is really similar to yours. Good talk. It's not just that. They're going to actually they're going to make a case. And then he's scaring them. He's saying, listen, they're going to make you convert either here, they're going to make a case against you, and if they don't make a case against you here, when you come before Allah, they will complain about you. Now this is strange. If the rabbi is telling them, you should not become Muslim, because if you go tell them what you know, then they will have a case against you to make عِنْدَ رَبِّكُمْ, before your master. Meaning on Judgment Day, some have done the ta'wil of this on Judgment Day. Then shouldn't that make them want to convert? Like if they have a case against them on Judgment Day, they should want to run and actually be accepted or accept Islam so they don't have a case against themselves on Judgment Day. Who wouldn't want to be saved on Judgment Day? But actually if you study